Okay, let's try this again. Hello everyone, this is my first video on the channel. Kind of a strange first video because it is a weekly recap, right? Whatever. I upload videos whenever I want, right? This is my first one, felt like might as well start. If I don't start now, when will I, right? So, what is this channel? I am a real human being, right? And I have a big passion for books, for films, etc. Sorry, I'm like really gassy right now. Had a protein shake, that's probably why. Anyways, I upload joke videos, but that's not all I am, right? Whenever I feel like I want to say something serious, talk about something I actually really like, I'll just get flooded with comments saying, the same jokes over and over, right? And like just referencing the silly videos that I made in the past. That's why I have this channel. It's separate from that. There's no jokes like that here, guys. This is all just serious talk. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about what have I read and watched in this first week of October. Kind of crazy. I'm looking at the calendar that this doesn't happen often where the first week of a month is an entire week, right? Sunday the 1st through Saturday the 7th, and it's pretty cool. However, for my purposes, I consider Friday the end of the week for making content like this because it just seems like Friday is a good day to put that out there. That might be subject to change. Maybe I'll change it to Saturday or maybe even Sunday. It's just Sundays, are a little busy for me. Anyways, so it's October, right? What does that mean? It means spooky season, fellas. It means spooky season. And when it comes to movies and books, I try to, in October, experience horror stories that I have not typically... it's like a mix, right? Like, there's the classics that I love, but also I want to mostly focus on new things, right? So to do that, over on Letterboxd, there's a challenge called Hooptober. And in Hooptober, you try to watch a horror movie every day, try to review it the same day, right? And there's categories that you have to pick, like a movie from this director, or this genre, or like this type of horror movie, etc. And it's pretty fun. I found a lot of my favorites that way, including one I'll talk to in a moment. But anyways, so far I have seen, I can pull up my list. I've seen 6 so far. So I am actually... It sounds like I'm on track, but I actually have more than 31 films. So I have to kind of pump those numbers up. I'm actually seeing one tonight, so I guess I will actually be caught up, and that's Saw 10. I'm watching that in a couple hours, actually, so I'm excited for that. Anyways, so before that, though, I'm going to talk about reading, right? Because this is a book channel, right? You're probably like, why is he talking about movies? I'm going to talk about media in general here, but I want to focus primarily on books, right? Because that's my main passion right now. I accidentally hit my pop filter. So, what have I read? Well, I'm doing a challenge. I was reading Legend of the Galactic Heroes. I was reading The New Jedi Order, Star Wars EU, and I was reading I was going to read The First Law and The Inheritance Cycle as well. But all of those are on hold. In fact, I was reading a book, The Secret History. I was loving it to death, by Donna Tartt, legendary. But I had to put that on hold, unfortunately, because this is the King-a-thon, fellas. I realized I did not read many Stephen King books. I wanted to change that. So I wanted to go through as many books in publication order as I can, skipping nonfiction, so no Danse Macabre is on my list. And I'm trying to do minimum 13 books this month. 13 books by Stephen King is kind of crazy, right? Especially The Stand is one of his longest books, and I believe it's book number 6 I'm going to read. But I think I can do it. Right? I read Of War and Ruin by Ron Cahill, which I actually have an autographed copy of back there somewhere. Somewhere. There's so many books. Anyways, I read that in like 3 days, fellas, so I feel like I can do this. In fact, I feel my pace has been a little slow, and that's because of Beyond Fest, which is a big film festival in LA that I go to. I'm actually going tomorrow to see Pacific Rim in 35mm with Guillermo del Toro, which is pretty cool, and the 4K restoration of The Raid Redemption right after. Talk about a double feature. Anyways, so I've only read 2 books so far this week, but both by Stephen King, of course. Publication order, so that starts off with Carrie, right? Pretty short book. I read that in like a day and a half, and Carrie was very good. I like this book a lot. I'll do reviews later eventually, like once I actually start doing book reviews, right? That's kind of the point of channels like this. But, you know, I've been reading and watching so much, I kind of want to do, like, just a video in general talking about that. So, Carrie, very famous story, right? Of course, it got a really great adaptation by Brad Palma and a couple not-so-great adaptations. And I was familiar with the De Palma film. De Palma's one of my favorite directors. He directed arguably my favorite film of all time, Phantom of the Paradise. So, of course, I love him. But Carrie was a different book than what I was expecting. It was an interesting book. I liked it a lot. I wasn't expecting it to have this almost found footage aspect of it. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is that a lot of the book is told through excerpts of nonfiction stories, books that are in the world of Carrie, interviews with characters from the book, and like analysis of Carrie White and her TK phenomenon from a scientific standpoint. I didn't think it was handled expertly. Obviously, this was his first book, and I do think it's a little awkward the way it's all laid out. But it was interesting. I really liked that, and one of my friends pointed this out, and I got to agree with him. He said that as good as the De Palma film was, he would be more interested, and I would be more interested in a in a new version that's like a mockumentary, that's like a found footage film. I think that it was very intentional of King to do it this way because it feels like a sort of gonzo satire on, you know, those stories that start in small towns that get really big and they make it into the news. It felt like that about this poor girl who's horrifically tortured and ultimately lashes out in a very violent manner, right? Like I said, it's a very, very classic book. And really hard to read sometimes. I mean, that beginning is so uncomfortable, especially as a man reading it. It's like, whoa, right? It begins with this woman having her period in the locker room at school, and it's her first period, and she is a 16-year-old girl, right? Crazy. Like, then those girls are vicious, man. They're vicious. The characters are all extremely unlikable. Character progression, I'd say there's character regression, right, from pretty much everyone. I mean, Carrie's mother, Margaret, is like the most horrible human being ever. Just this self-loathing, like, cretin that just lashes everything out on her innocent daughter. And she kind of becomes more maniacal as the book goes on. Carrie, unfortunately, you know, not to give spoilers away, but she goes down a dark path in this, and there's not really a light at the end of the tunnel for her, ultimately. Which is kind of a sad story. I mean, on one hand, you could kind of be like, yeah, awesome, the bullies are killed, but it gets out of control, and it even... guys like Tommy, who, like... Tommy was a good guy, you know, and King spent a lot of time setting up Tommy as, like, he wasn't just a jock, you know, he was intelligent, he had emotions, and he started to actually really feel something for Carrie after he was put up to ask her out to prom by his girlfriend, and Snoo Snow. But it wasn't really a trick. It was that Sue felt bad for Carrie, and it is kind of weird for her to ask her boyfriend to do this, but it's made very clear in the book that this is some sort of atonement for her. And unfortunately, things don't end well for Tommy. I'll just say it like that. Sorry if it sounds like I'm giving stuff away. It's just, this is an old book. This is a classic book. It's adapted to movies many times, and you kind of know what's happening as the book is going on. It's not really a mystery. So, don't worry, guys. In my book reviews, I will have spoiler and non-spoiler sections. Anyways, great book, though. I liked it a lot. I actually really liked the way it was written. Even though it wasn't handled perfectly, I could see what he was going for, and I respect that. Now, the big one, I read Salem's Lot by Stephen King, and I've got this grin on my face because, fellas, I'm going to say this was one of the best books I have ever damn read. It was perfect. It was everything down to the last details. It was perfect. My only complaint is it wasn't longer. If this book was double or even triple its length, I would have just loved it. Loved it to death. I felt like it was a big influence for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Stardust Crusaders, which is funny because there actually is a direct Salem's Lot reference and parody in, I believe it's Phantom Blood, right? There's a town, it's called something Lot, and everyone in there turns into vampires, and there's like this overly long explanation in detail, the way that this book kind of opens. This is a lot of fun, and such a great story, great use of vampires. Great way to set up the town and the townsfolk. I know some people complain that there's too many characters in this book and that it spends a little too long being comfy. I loved that. To me, it felt like it was a real small town. It gave me major Twin Peaks vibes, which if you don't know, Twin Peaks is like my favorite piece of media, like probably ever. So that's high praise. Ben Muir's great protagonist. Father Callahan, my god, what an incredible character. And he has some dark moments in this, moments of pure like hopelessness that I felt because the character was feeling that. Like the way the king is able to juggle all these points of view is masterful. It's like it truly is like Robert Jordan tier from Wheel of Time, just the way he gets into all these heads. And the characters might say something that you don't agree with and King might not agree with, but it's done well and you understand that this is just the way that person thinks or talks, right? And it's very hard for someone to do that, to show all these characters in such genuine ways. And King pulls it off in his second book, fellas. This is his second book. Can you believe that? Oh my god. It was incredible. Like, I'll do a whole video on it later. It was that good. I mean, I'll try to do videos on as many books as I can, but Salem's Lot... Salem's Lot... Is it Salem's Lot or Salem's Lot? Because it's short for Jerusalem's Lot. I haven't seen the film by Tobe Hooper. I really want to, because Tobe Hooper's like my goat. I've been kind of saving that one for, you know, the right time to see it, and I guess now is actually the time. So I'll watch it soon, I guess. I'm very excited, because there's a great story in there, and I'm sure it could be done very well in a film. That's it. It was incredible. It was just absolutely incredible. If you want a great vampire story, and a way that vampires are scary, go read Salem's Lot. You will not regret it. The character work, the writing, the horror, the action is like, it's all perfect. It really is. And I am reading right now, well actually rereading The Shining by Stephen King. First time I read this was in middle school, fellas, and I was too young, and I was too spoiled by the Stanley Kubrick film, which admittedly as it's great, but I'm trying to view this as its own thing, because I know it is its own thing. I know that King himself was not very happy with the movie, and, you know, that's his opinion. I think the movie is amazing. A lot of people will dare say that the movie is better than the book. I'm going to be fair. I'm not going to compare them. I am enjoying it a lot. I'm picking up a lot more on the weight of the story that I wasn't really able to as a kid. The themes of spousal abuse, the themes of alcoholism, etc. Very overt and very well done in this book. So that's all I've read so far this week. I mean, hey, 2 Stephen King books in a week, not bad, but I gotta pump those numbers up if I'm gonna get to 13 books, right? Especially getting through The Stand, which luckily I have the audiobook for, so hopefully that helps. Now, movies. Watched a lot more movies this week, fellas. So, let me double check. I'm covering the 30th also, right? I'm covering up to the 29th. Okay. Wow, okay, yeah, I saw a lot. So, I started Beyond Fest. As I mentioned, Beyond Fest is the film festival that's hosted in LA. They show mostly genre films. So, I started off with that with a brand new watch, Caligula, 1979, the one with Malcolm McDowell. And if you don't know, this movie is very controversial because it was basically a porno when it came out. It was funded by Penthouse, and the producer was the guy who ran Penthouse, and he went behind the director's back and filmed a lot of egregious actual sex scenes and just threw them into the movie. I've not seen the original version. This was the West Coast premiere of the new cut of the film that cuts all of that stuff out. And it is like almost 3 hours long. and not a single second of visual footage, not a single second, was from the original cut. That is crazy. And Malcolm McDowell infamously hated the original movie, and rightly so, because, you know, all of his acting was basically thrown out the window in favor of some, like, blowjobs. And he was there for Q&A, it was great, and he was so proud of the film. He said it's still not a masterpiece, but it's much better. And I agree. I wouldn't say it's a masterpiece, but the set design, the production, everything about it, the acting was, like, incredible. Just on a pure visual spectacle level, it's worth watching. And acting is worth watching as well. The movie feels like a horrific nightmare. You know, it's incredible in that regard. It's not for everyone, though. It's very explicit still. It's not toned down at all outside of just the egregious... There are still sex scenes. They are vital to the plot. They're not just random ones that were thrown in there. So, my favorite events that happened was a 4-film marathon for Roger Corman. 35mm, all of them. And Roger Corman was there. Alan Arkish, Ron Howard, Joe Dante... forgetting her name, the director of Slumber Party Massacre. It was an incredible panel. But the films were Rock and Roll High School, which I had not seen. It was Grand Theft Auto by Ron Howard, not the game, which I didn't see either. There was Piranha, which I had seen. And then there was The Raven with Vincent Price, Peter Lorre, Boris Karloff, and Jack Nicholson. Man, what a cast. And I had not seen that either. Those were great. Rock and Roll High was a lot of fun. I wrote a review for that on Letterboxd just today. I know I'm a little late, but so much fun. Felt like a Mad Magazine in live action. The Ramones were great in it. The music was fun. The cast is incredible, especially Clint Howard and Mary Warrenoff. Like, such incredible performances. Grand Theft Auto was very good. It was a lot of fun. Kind of like a screwball comedy, kind of Cannonball Run type riff. If you like cars, there's a lot of cars, and it's just a silly story. Then there was Piranha, which I had seen already. And I like Piranha. It's not my favorite Joe Dante film, but it's good. And it's surprisingly terrifying, actually. The movie gets pretty graphic pretty fast. And there's a lot of kid violence, too. So if you're privy to that, well, you know, there it is. And then there was The Raven. The Raven was a lot of fun. A much sillier film than I thought it was going to be. I mean, a lot of the Corman films are silly anyways, like Tales of Terror. Incredible movie. Peter Lorre and Vincent Price together. I made a joke that Peter Lorre and Vincent Price were the Wario and Waluigi to Peter Cushing and Sir Christopher Lee's Mario and Luigi. And it's too accurate. They're great in this movie. They're so great. Boris Karloff is incredible, too. If you want to see Vincent Price and Boris Karloff duke it out with, like, lasers and, like, pulling wizard pranks on each other, this is the movie for you. It's a lot of fun. Then on the same day, after all that, I was there from, like, 9:30 a.m. to, like, 1 a.m. It was crazy. And so after all of that was The Toxic Avenger, the new movie, the remake of the Lloyd Kaufman Troma classic. Now, this movie is not publicly available yet. It's only on film festivals, so I will not spoil much about it. What I will say is, when I heard that they announced they were remaking The Toxic Avenger, I thought, are you kidding me? You cannot do that. Like, that is off limits, mister. But then I found out that Macon Blair, who directed I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore, he was in Blue Ruin, he was in Green Room, he was in Oppenheimer recently. Great actor, great director, great writer, and he was doing it. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm interested. And then Peter Dinklage was announced as both Toxie pre- and post-transformation. That was like, whoa, okay, this is going to be very different. I'm all in. Fellas, the movie is great. It is great. You do not need to see the original to enjoy it, but I recommend you do, because the original is great, but it's a totally different movie. And man, Toxie's design in this is like one of the greatest prosthetic effects I've ever seen. You will not believe that it is Peter Dinklage. It's incredible. And he's still able to act. And the movie has like a serious story. And it's genuinely a moving and compelling film. And it's also hilarious, over the top, and tasteless. This is about as tasteless as a Hollywood production can get, guys. Like, that is saying a lot. It's not to the degree of the Troma classic, but it's worth watching. You should go support it when it's available, if it's coming. It's a wide release, I don't know. I was actually interviewed by a Legendary Pictures guy afterwards about it, so I can see that they're a little, maybe not apprehensive, but they're curious about what the reaction is going to be, right? So there was that. Then, the following day, so this is October now, fellas, I saw Adam Chaplin. Wow, what an incredible film. Another one I don't want to say much about, but look, fellas, I love my Japanese schlock exploitation horror, like gonzo violence shit, okay? I love like Genocyber, Bao, Riki-Oh, Fist of the North Star, right? Even like Ichi the Killer and The Wicked City, right? Those type of movies. Incredible, right? Lots of fun. And this movie, Adam Chaplin, small micro-budget Italian movie with a crew of like 5 guys maybe. And it was very inspired by that stuff, especially Riki-Oh. And it captures that tone and aesthetic so perfectly. Everything about it, the way it looks, the music, the graphic violence. This is one of the craziest, bloodiest movies you will ever see in your life. That should sell you alone. Fellas, if you like Bao or Riki-Oh or Genocyber, right? These crazy ass unique things. And I'm telling you that there is something out there that is not Japanese that feels like this. Go watch it, okay? It is not for everyone, but if you are a gorehound and you love just crazy shit and just rule of cool badassery, it doesn't get much better than Adam Chaplin, okay? And they're making a sequel, so that's interesting. So that was great. I saw, this wasn't part of Beyond Fest, but for Hooptober, I saw Hercules in the Haunted World by Mario Bava. Classic sword and sandals movie with some horror elements. There is a performance by Sir Christopher Lee. It was very good. It was fun. Beautiful looking movie. Wish it spent more in the haunted world, but, you know, it's fun. I don't really have much else to say. It was a good time. I would recommend it. I saw Santo versus the Vampire Women, which is a Mexican horror film starring, you know, Santo, the Lucha Libre star. And it was kind of awful. It's kind of awful. It doesn't really live up to that crazy title, that crazy poster, that crazy premise. The Santo scenes are good, but there's not enough of them. And a lot of the movie is just like boring scenes of like scientists and like detectives talking in rooms. The finale is particularly very good, but I don't know. If you're really into that, one thing I will say about the film is it was made in 1962, but it feels like a 1930s Gothic film, which is cool. It's quaint, you know, but I wouldn't really recommend it. I saw Heiko's Tale. That was a episode of Masters of Horror, who actually got to see Mick Garris at Beyond Fest. I got to thank him personally for Masters of Horror. That was really cool. But that was directed by John McNaughton, who made Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. And it's based on a Clive Barker story. That was one of the things for Hooptobers. Watch something adapted from Clive Barker, which I had seen most of them already. You know, Rawhead Rex, Hellraiser, etc. I almost saw the Midnight Meat Train, but I want to do Masters of Horror because, you know, I own Masters of Horror and I haven't seen all of it yet. And it was good. George A. Romero was supposed to direct it originally, but then he left last minute. I'm not really sure why. It's good. It's spooky. It's got a good atmosphere. It's well done. But the finale is particularly great. I highly recommend just for the finale. And then the last film I saw was actually last night, and I'm a little tired today because it was at 10 p.m. and I didn't get home until like past 1 o'clock. Was De La Morte de la More, also known in America as Cemetery Man. Now, Cemetery Man, aka De La Morte de la More, is a very important film for me. It's one of my favorites of all time. It's a movie I feel like no one really talks about and very few people even know exists. And it's a movie I kind of don't want to talk about because I want you to have the experience I had, which was to see it completely blind. And thank goodness, Severin Films is finally doing a 4K remaster. I got to go to the world premiere of it yesterday. That's what I was there for at Beyond Fest. Mikel Sovali, the director, he was supposed to be there, but he was busy. And that's a shame because I would have really loved to ask him questions about this film because it's incredible. It's incredible. I guess the closest that I can get to describing it is Paul Schrader, right? Taxi Driver, First Reformed, etc. If he made a movie about zombies, it'd be like this, right? And it's not what you expect at all. It starts out kind of like riffing on Evil Dead, maybe, and it just quickly becomes its own thing, and it just gets more and more absurd with each scene. I mean, fellas, listen. There's a scene where a biker gang kid dies, and I'm leaving a lot out on purpose. I'm simplifying it. He dies. They bury him with his motorcycle, and then his motorcycle and him both get zombified. Right, the motorcycle looks like a zombie motorcycle, if you can imagine that. They burst out of the grave, and this isn't even in the top 10 best moments of the movie. All I have to say. So please, when that comes out in the beautiful 4K, please support that film. If you love horror, that is a must-watch. It is a totally unique experience. Now, Severin actually had a booth there, so I bought a few things. So I got this 4K restoration of Bad Biology by Frank Henenlotter. This is one of the, probably the grossest film I've ever seen. Frankly, I'm not even sure if I like this film, but I had to get it. It's so absurd, and I didn't even know a 4K restoration of this existed. I can't talk about what this movie is about. I'm not even sure if I can really show the cover in detail. It's that graphic and extreme and bizarre. But, you know, it's the guy who made Basket Case, but it's so much more extreme than Basket Case. So if you want just something truly effed up, then watch Bad Biology, but I'm warning you on that. It is a lot. And if I say it's a lot, please take that to heart. I do a blind buy always with these things, so I bought this, Faceless. I know nothing about it, but I told the guy I love effed up gonzo movies, and he said then you have to watch Faceless. And I believe this is an Italian film. I don't know if it's a giallo or not, but it's got a cool looking simple case, but then you open it and you're like, oh, whoa, what's this? That's badass. I love this. So I was like, yeah, I'll check it out. So I'm going to watch that soon-ish. Again, I have my Hooptober, which kind of takes priority. And the last thing I got, fellas, this is a very big purchase for me. And I'm so happy I finally got it. I got the 4K disc restoration they did of Santa Sangre by Alejandro Jodorowsky. This is one of the greatest films of all freaking time. This is probably like in my top 10 greatest horror films of all time. And it's less talked about, I feel like, than The Holy Mountain and El Topo, which are like by far, I think, his two most famous movies. This is a close third, though. It's not. I'm not saying this is like an underrated, underseen masterpiece. Decent amount of people know about this film, and unfortunately, we just lost Axel Jodorowsky. He passed away recently. Unfortunately, he was Alejandro Jodorowsky's son. He stars in this, but this is a truly twisted film. This movie about like a circus. And there's a performer there who his mother got her lost her arms, and he pretends to be her arms, and it starts to really mess with him psychologically. And you're kind of seeing these two different timelines of him when he's in the carnival and then when he's institutionalized. Incredible film, and I'm so excited because this has over 8 hours of bonus features, and it has the soundtrack, which is amazing because it's such a great soundtrack. I almost bought, they had this huge folk horror box set that had like 14 films, including one of my favorites, Vi, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It's a Russian film. It's very good, almost like, I would say, like Russian Evil Dead, if that sells you. And it looked great documentary was attached to it, but it was like $140, I think. But then, like, I ended up spending almost exactly that much on these three movies. But at least these are, well, one movie I love. One movie I'm not sure I love, but it's worth owning. And then one that I have no idea about, but I'll probably love. I'll probably pick up the folk one eventually. It's just, guys, my backlog is huge. And again, that's why I make these videos, so I can kind of keep track of things. This is not me trying to cash in. I'm not trying to make it big on, you know, the booktube or anything. It's just something I'm doing just because I want to, and I want to kind of document it. So I'm hitting almost 30 minutes. I think it's good to call it there. So hopefully by next week I am finished with The Shining and I am moving on. Hopefully I'm on The Stand by then. That would be really cool. I could do whole videos every week about The Stand, I'm assuming. It's such a huge book. It looks incredible. I'm so excited. Anyways, that's Real Human Books, also known as Real Human Bean. And that's signing off on my first video. So hope you stay with me on this journey because I'm very excited to actually get to talk about these things. All right? Peace.